So this is going to be a reading of my first chapter from my book in progress called Saint Devil Child. My life as a series of fucked up adventures is the subtitle. And this is chapter 1, My Birth Story. Begins with a quote from William Shakespeare. Being born is like being kidnapped and then sold into slavery. That's the immortal bard. Hi, my name is Damien Benjamin Sibuyan. I'm 52 years old, and my life up to this point has been a rich tapestry of fucked up adventures. I say fucked up because when you can't come up with a phrase to accurately describe something, you turn to the tried and true, all-inclusive, bombastic phrase that's as vague as it is enticing. It's not mental laziness. It's honestly the only phrase that works. My life has been composed of a series of fucked up adventures, one right after another. And it started on day one. Case in point, I was born dead. And it wasn't anybody's fault but mine. The first piece of evidence was right there for everyone in the hospital room to see. My umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck like a noose. And because I was the only one in the womb at the time, the authorities had only me to suspect. And because suicide is illegal in Ohio, once the doctors revived me, I was interrogated by a detective who had dropped everything and rushed to the scene. Where were you on the evening of June 18th, 1970? He asked. By then, it was the following morning. I played it cool. I'll cooperate, but only if I can have a smoke, see? A smoke? I played the simile game. A Dugan, a Dury, a Gasper, a Lucy, a lung dart, a fag. Oh, you mean you want a cigarette? Wow, you really are a detective. Yeah, a ciggy, a coffin nail, a cancer stick. You look a little young to be smoking. No smoky, no talky. So he sparked up a Marlboro Red and handed it butt side facing me like a gentleman. I took a long drag and savored the glorious nicotine-saturated smoke. Now, what do you want to know? I said, and I could tell he was impressed that I didn't even cough. Where were you on the evening of June 18th, 1970? In the womb, I said, minding my own business, see? Okay, you were in the womb. He scribbled in his little notebook and peered at me. I could tell, even at that age, that this detective was trying to gauge my body language. He asked, where did you go from there? From the womb? Yes. Well, officer, it's detective. He tapped his badge with his pen. Sorry, detective. Don't sweat it, kid. Please, continue. I don't think you appreciate the magical heaven that is the womb, detective. I don't think any of you do. I swept the room with my pudgy little newborn baby hand, indicating the entirety of humanity. I blew out a giant cloud of smoke and waited for it to dissipate before I continued. There are so many benefits to the womb that life beyond it can never duplicate, detective. For one thing, it's the best sensory deprivation tank ever. I used to get blissed out of my mind on the regular. I got free room service just by pulling the cord or kicking the walls. I never had to chew my own food. It all went right to the belly. And then there's the fetal position, the best position ever. But you can only truly appreciate it when you're in the womb because you're floating in the glorious amniotic fluid. In the bed, forget about it. The fetal position is wasted in the bed. I paused ever so slightly, and the detective decisively interjected. Is that why you decided to kill yourself? You'll get your confession, detective. Be patient. The story is only as long as this cigarette will take me to smoke. No longer, no shorter. So, do you mind? Go right ahead, baby. It's newborn, detective. Newborn. Right, newborn, sorry. We're even. Do you know that I'm only 5 hours old and have yet to suckle my mother's bulbous breasts. That's why I'm already addicted to these. Compensation, I think the shrinks call it. I wouldn't know. Anyway, the point is, I liked it in my sweet magical heaven. I thought that's where I was, heaven. Don't get me wrong, I didn't think I had earned the right to be there. The shit I did in my former life, yowza. But what else could it be? A place as blissful as the womb? I thought it was inside a cloud, like a cloud womb, and that I was being fed by God, or at least one of his angels. But nope. Turns out God had other plans for me, plans I wasn't going to like. The terrible thing happened as I was dancing to the angels who were jamming out from beyond the walls of my womb. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Ah, your parents have good taste. I like the Who myself. What are you talking about? Never mind. Continue. So I was doing my shimmy, shake, spin moves to the angel music when the thing that happened that would change my life forever happened. The water broke. It did more than break, Detective. It flushed the fuck out of there. A hole that hadn't been there before opened up ever so slightly and began sucking me into it. You see, Detective, the womb is more than just a blissful pleasure dome. It's a portal to the astral realms. The veil is thin in the womb, and when I slept, I traveled through time and experienced numerous past lives. I've already forgotten most of them, and in a day or so, I will forget myself altogether and truly become a newborn, a frail, helpless ball of flesh with arms, legs, and a head. Useless. But while I have this time, I want you to know that when I started getting sucked down that hole that led to the birth canal, see, my whole future just flashed before my eyes. In an instant, I saw everything. I experienced everything. I know it's hard to fathom because we're trapped in this world of space and time. But where I went, there was only knowledge and witnessing. I snapped back to the 3D world to find that I was halfway down the tube, going down feet first. Then I saw the umbilical cord, Detective. That which had sustained me, fed me such incredible variety of cuisine, was going to be the tool of my extinction. But why? The detective said, sounding uncharacteristically emotional. To want to end your life before it even started? The way I see it, Detective, death is simply a transition period between lifetimes. I saw it with my own third eye. But before we get reborn, we go through the whole evolution in the womb thing. That part I like. I like that part an awful lot. If I could master the art of self inflicted infanticide, then I could theoretically skip the shitty part, which is what you would call life. If I could successfully off myself, I would get to go to another womb. The hole opens up to suck me down into life, but on the way down, I wrap the cord around my neck again. If I were to write my memoir, it would be called From Womb to Womb, My Life as a Perpetual Fetus. The detective didn't have anything to say to that. He stared off into nothingness, then looked at me pensively. I feel like I just finished a captivating book whose ending completely took me by surprise. So before I decide what to make of it, I need to sip some scotch and have a smoke by the pier. Maybe consult the moon. You know what I mean? I hope that means I'm free to go. The detective smirked, raised from his chair, and as he walked out the door, he turned and said, "Stay out of trouble, kid." He paused, as if considering his words carefully, then added, "You might be right that life is hell. That's only because you're comparing it to heaven. In my experience, life isn't either of those things. Life is full of stories whose endings just might surprise the socks off of you. I waited until I heard his footsteps fade into oblivion. Hmm, I don't even wear socks. Strangely enough, I'm the only one involved in my birth that remembers the good detective. Not my parents, not the doctors or the nurses. They say that the reality of what happened was far more frightening, if not a whole lot more believable. It's true that I came out purple and lifeless, with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, but that's where my memory diverges from everyone else's. The staff leapt into action but failed to revive me through conventional CPR. So, in desperation, the doctor held my frail, pitiful body upside down and whacked the soles of my feet with a metal rod. It was then that life returned to my body in the form of a small, whimpering gasp. From there, I was taken to the infant ward and monitored. It was also true that I went a long time without suckling my mother's bulbous breasts, that were, by the time I got my first taste, swollen to capacity like cow udders right before milking time. The taste made being robbed of my womb to womb dream of never having to deal with actual life almost worth it. Almost. All right. Thank you. And stay tuned for chapter 2 at a later time.